Okay, so let's go over the cash budget. So in order to do the cash budget, we need the cash receipts, so the schedule of cash receipts. We need to know the cash disbursements for purchases from the schedule of cash disbursements for purchases. Other expenses from our other budgets, so this would be our selling, general, and administrative expenses. But we can see these amounts include depreciation, and we know depreciation doesn't involve a payment of cash. So we are going to subtract that when we figure out the cash we had to pay for other expenses. Some additional information, we're told that we're paying off, we bought equipment and we gave a note to borrow money to pay it. We still have to make a couple more payments until November. $18,000 per month is our payment on our equipment note. Our minimum cash balance is $15,000. So we need to have at least a balance of $15,000. If we don't, we need to borrow. We can see our cash balance on September 30th is $16,000, so we didn't have a beginning loan. When we need to, we can borrow, but it needs to be in multiples of 100. The interest rate is 6% per year. Okay. So our beginning cash balance, we're told, is $16,000. We're going to add to that our cash receipts, and I'm going to drop in November and December as well while I'm here. So our beginning cash balance plus our cash receipts came to $105,400. That's what we have available. Out of that, we need to pay from our schedule of cash disbursements for purchases, we need to pay $61,398. We also need to pay our other expenses. So that $20,500, but I'm going to subtract the $6,000 for depreciation. So $14,500. Let me carry these across as well. Okay, I got to pay that equipment note through November, so $18,000 in October, $18,000 in November. So we can total up our cash disbursements. Okay. And our balance before borrowing or repayment, we're going to take the cash we have available. Out of that, we got to make our cash disbursements. So our balance is $11,502. Okay, but it's our balance before borrowing or repayment. Because we didn't have a loan to repay, but we're going to have to borrow this month because we need to have a minimum cash balance of $15,000. So we need to borrow the difference between $15,000 and $11,502. So we need to borrow, and I'm going to do that here. However, we can't just borrow $34.98. It says we have to borrow in multiples of 100, so we're going to actually borrow $3,500. Okay, and then we have that minimum balance of $15,000 too. Our ending balance in October becomes our beginning balance in November. Add together the $15,000 and the $97,245. We can see we've got cash available of $112,247. Out of that, we need to pay $100,100 in cash disbursements. So we end up with a cash balance before borrowing and repayment of $12,147. So again, we're below the $15,000 minimum cash balance, so we're going to have to borrow. The difference between $15,000 and $12,147 comes to $2,853, but we have to borrow in multiples of 100, so we got to borrow $2,900. And so we'll end up with an ending balance when we add together the $12,147 and the $2,900. Now we're over $15,000. We've got $15,047. And so that becomes our beginning balance in December. Add that to our cash receipts. So we've got $108,497 available. We need to pay our disbursements of $68,442. So when we subtract, we get $40,055. So now we have more than the 15,000 minimum. So now we're going to pay off our loans. Okay, we have to pay back our loans, and we have to pay the interest. Okay, the interest is 6% per year. So we can see in October, we had a loan balance of $3,500, and we have to pay interest of 6% per year. So I'm going to take that 6%, divide that by 12, because that'll give us 1 month of interest. So the 3,500 times the 0.5%, we've got $1,750 in interest for October. So we had a loan balance of $3,500, and then we had to borrow another $2,900. So then we had a loan balance of $6,400. We got to pay 5% interest on $6,400. So $32. Then in December, okay, we've got the loan balance because we don't pay it back till the end of the month, so we've got to pay another 5.5%, 0.5% on that $6,400. So we got to pay another $32 in interest. Okay, so now we need to pay back the $6,400, and we have to pay back the $8,150. So we need to pay back $66,481.50. So after we subtract that from our balance before borrowing or repayment, that gets us to our ending cash balance, $33,573.50, well above our $15,000 minimum.